Kia ora, my passionate angling family. Your seasoned fishing guide and buddy is back with the essential intel you need to conquer the waters of our magnificent New Zealand. We're diving deep into the fishing forecast for the week, spanning from September 22nd to September 28th, 2025. This isn't just any week, friends. It's the heart of early spring, a period of dramatic transitions where the fish are awakening and the weather can throw everything it's got at us. You see, this week is shaping up to be a real mixed bag. A turbulent start with some classic spring storms will test our resolve, but for those who understand the rhythm of the water and the pulse of the fish, it promises incredible opportunities. We're going to break down why some days will be challenging, what those rapid weather shifts mean for our finned friends, and crucially, how you can turn these conditions to your advantage. Prepare to discover the secrets to finding those elusive bites, even when the elements aren't playing fair, and learn how to capitalize on the warmer, calmer moments that this vibrant New Zealand spring will offer. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll be armed with the knowledge to make this week, despite its early challenges, a truly memorable chapter in your fishing logbook. This week, we navigate the unpredictable beauty of spring, where every cast holds the potential for a trophy and every cloud carries a lesson in angling wisdom. Let's cast off. Now let's talk tactics and target species, because knowing what's active and how to approach them is half the battle won. First up, our freshwater legends, rainbow and brown trout. Where to search and why? My friends, as the chill of winter steadily recedes, New Zealand's famous trout, both the acrobatic rainbow and the wily brown, are feeling the irresistible call of warming waters. In spring, these incredible fish become noticeably more active, starting to move up from their deeper, colder winter haunts towards the sun-warmed shallows. This is where you, the astute angler, will want to focus your efforts. Look for the extensive weed beds, the subtle drop-offs and the sheltered bays around the edges of our larger iconic lakes such as Rotorua and Taupo in the North Island, and the magnificent Lake Brunner and Lake Benmore in the South Island. Why these specific spots, you ask? Because these areas, often no more than 2 to 5 meters deep, are the first to experience significant temperature increases. This warmth stimulates the growth and activity of baitfish, insect larvae, and other aquatic invertebrates, essentially a spring buffet for trout. The trout, whether still recovering from their spawning runs or preparing for the next burst of activity, will actively patrol these food-rich zones. For those pursuing the magnificent sea-run trout, particularly in the pristine fjords and rivers of the South Island's westland and fjordland regions, your best bet will be targeting the river mouths and estuaries. The influx of fresh water, often carrying dislodged food items, mingling with the slightly warmer tidal waters, creates a rich feeding ground as these migratory fish return from the ocean, seeking out anadromous prey and insect life flushed downstream. Look for structures like submerged logs, rocky outcrops, and any current breaks that offer both shelter and prime ambush points. The key here, friends, is understanding that warmer water means a boost in the metabolism for fish, leading to more active prey, and in turn, more active and catchable predators, our beloved trout. What to use and the logic behind it? Given these early spring conditions, your tackle choice needs to be versatile and adaptable. For those late spawning rainbows, and believe me, they can still be a handful, don't overlook the effectiveness of well-presented nymphs and streamers. Patterns like a classic hair and copper, a delicate pheasant tail, or a robust woolly bugger in olive or black, fished with a slow, deliberate retrieve, will perfectly mimic the invertebrates and smaller baitfish that trout are targeting. The darker colors are particularly effective in slightly discolored or deeper waters. When targeting the often aggressive brown trout, especially in those magnificent mountain streams where they're really starting to get active, weighted nymphs are your go-to. The extra weight gets your fly down quickly in the faster, oxygenated currents where these strong fish are holding and feeding. For lake fishing, a slow-sinking or intermediate fly line with a woolly bugger, often stripped erratically to imitate a fleeing baitfish, can be deadly along those lake edges, especially during low light conditions at dawn or dusk, or when the water is slightly colored by recent rain. And let's not forget the spin anglers among us. Small, flashy spoons in silver or gold, or even a well-weighted soft plastic minnow retrieved with a stop-and-go action can trigger irresistible territorial strike from a hungry trout. Remember, the fish are coming out of a less active winter period, so a tempting, easy meal that presents itself well is often irresistible. Matching the hatch might be less critical than simply presenting a visible, enticing offering directly in their likely feeding lane. Next up, our coastal champions, Kahawai. Where to search and why are the Kahawai? These incredibly feisty and accessible fighters are an absolute joy to catch, and spring is a fantastic time to find them. You'll want to focus your search for Kahawai around river mouths, especially those along the east coast of both the North and South Islands. Why these spots? Because September marks the beginning of the whitebait season in some areas, particularly on the South Island's west coast, and this abundance of small baitfish acts like a siren call to hungry Kahawai. They'll be actively herding and feasting on these schools. Keep a keen eye out for flocks of feeding birds like white-fronted terns or shearwaters diving into the water. That, my friends, is your clearest signal of Kahawai shoals actively busting bait on the surface. These birds are your natural fish finders. The turbulent mixing of fresh and salt water at river mouths also concentrates food and provides a nutrient-rich environment that Kahawai adore. Look for areas with a visible current, as Kahawai often use these currents to ambush their prey. What to use and the logic behind it. When Kahawai are on the bite, they're not too picky, which makes them a great target for a variety of methods. For the fly anglers, saltwater flies, especially those mimicking small baitfish like whitebait or anchovies, are incredibly effective. Think slim profiles in white, chartreuse, or blue and white patterns. For spin fishing, which is a very popular and successful method for Kahawai, small metal lures, often called slugs or spinners, in silver, chrome, or blue and silver are absolute killers. Cast them out, let them sink to the desired depth, and retrieve them with a fast, erratic jigging motion to imitate a fleeing baitfish. Soft plastic shads or paddle tails rigged on a light jig head can also be deadly, especially when worked through areas where baitfish are schooling. The key is to match the size and color of the natural baitfish they're feeding on, and to impart an erratic action that triggers their predatory instinct. Don't be afraid to experiment with retrieve speeds. Sometimes a fast, aggressive retrieve is best. Other times a slower, more wounded fish presentation does the trick. An incoming or outgoing tide around river mouths can be prime time, as the moving water helps concentrate both bait and predators. Our big game contenders, Kingfish, Yellowtail. Where to search and why? For those who love a serious battle, the mighty Kingfish, or Yellowtail, are truly firing up in spring, and this week holds potential. Spring brings these powerful predators into their hotspots, making them accessible for both land-based and boat anglers. Look for them in areas with abundant baitfish such as pilchards, especially in the rich feeding grounds of the Hauraki Gulf and other coastal areas around the North Island. Kingfish are highly migratory and will follow the bait, so actively search for workups, that incredible phenomenon where seabirds, baitfish and predators all converge in a feeding frenzy. These workups are gold mines. Beyond the workups, focus on areas with strong current, such as around prominent headlands, offshore reefs, pinnacles and buoy lines. Kingfish use these currents to ambush unsuspecting baitfish, and the turbulent water provides them with cover. They are often found patrolling the edges of these structures, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The rising water temperatures in spring energize these fish, making them incredibly aggressive and willing to chase down a well-presented lure or bait. What to use and the logic behind it? Kingfish at this time of year are in their absolute prime condition, strong, fast and hungry as they prepare for spawning. This means your gear needs to be robust and up to the challenge. For topwater action, which is incredibly exhilarating, use heavy spinning gear with large stick baits or poppers. Choose colors that mimic local baitfish, like pilchards or mackerel, or opt for vibrant patterns that stand out. The explosive strike of a kingfish on a topwater lure is unforgettable. Live baiting is another incredibly effective method. Mackerel, Kahawai, or koheru are prime choices. Rig them either free-lined or under a balloon near structure or workups. For those who prefer subsurface methods, jigging with heavy metal jigs, 100 to 250 grams or more, is a proven technique. Drop your jig to the depth where you're seeing kingfish on your sounder or where the bait is holding, and work it with an aggressive, vertical retrieve. The logic here is simple. These fish are powerful and they hit hard. Your tackle must be strong enough to withstand their brutal runs and their tendency to dive for structure. Check your knots, sharpen your hooks, and make sure your drag is perfectly set. You'll need it. Finally, our reliable bottom dwellers, snapper. Where to search and why? Good old snapper, a favourite of many New Zealand anglers, are really starting to make a comeback closer to shore as spring progresses. After their winter lull in deeper waters, snapper numbers are steadily increasing within casting range. You'll want to focus on shallower reefs, rocky outcrops and sandy areas adjacent to structure. Bays like Bream Bay and other North Island coastal spots will be coming alive with snapper activity. Why these areas? The warming inshore waters bring in their primary food sources: crabs, shellfish, small baitfish, and worms. Snapper will move into these areas to feed aggressively, often gathering in schools. Look for areas with a mix of sand and reef, as they love to cruise along the edges, ambushing prey. Also, don't shy away from areas with slight discoloration from river runoff, as this can provide cover and attract smaller food items. What to use and the logic behind it. For snapper, versatility is key, but some methods consistently outperform others in spring. Soft baits are, without a doubt, incredibly effective. Paddle tail or grub tail, soft plastics in natural baitfish colors, pilchard, smelt, or vibrant contrasts, pink, nuclear chicken, rigged on a light jig head, e.g. 1/2 to 1 ounce, are deadly. The lifelike action and scent impregnation of these lures can fool even the wariest snapper. Stray lining with pilchards or squid is a classic and highly successful method, especially when fishing over areas with structure or when the current is gently moving your bait. Use a small, unweighted hook with just enough lead to get your bait down slowly. A light ledger rig with a dropper and a small amount of burley, just a little to create a scent trail, can also entice snapper to your spot, particularly in slightly deeper areas or from a boat. The logic is to present a natural, appealing and easy meal. Snapper have excellent eyesight and a keen sense of smell, so clean baits and natural presentations are paramount. Don't be afraid to leave your bait out for a while. Snapper can be slow to investigate, but once they commit, the bite can be quite aggressive. Now let's peel back the layers and analyze the foundational conditions that will dictate our success this week. Understanding the why behind the what is the hallmark of a truly expert angler. Weather. All right, friends, let's talk about the weather because it's going to be the real game changer this week. We're looking at a classic New Zealand spring, unsettled and dynamic, a true roller coaster of conditions that will keep us on our toes. This period, from September 22nd to September 28th, 2025, is characterized by significant shifts. On Monday, September 22nd, expect a rather turbulent start, particularly for the South Island and around the Wellington region, with heavy rain forecast for the morning and strong gale-force northerlies. Air temperatures will be mild, fluctuating around 14 to 18 degrees Celsius during the day, dropping to 11 to 13 degrees at night. This stormy pattern, driven by an incoming atmospheric river, is set to continue into Tuesday and Wednesday with more widespread rain and even heavy falls predicted, keeping atmospheric pressure low and quite unstable across much of the country. These low-pressure systems typically make fish less active, often pushing them deeper or into areas of shelter. Strong winds will be a constant companion, primarily from the northwest, creating choppy conditions on open waters and strong currents in estuaries and river mouths, which can both hinder and help fishing depending on how you adapt. However, there's a glimmer of hope and a shift in the forecast later in the week. By Thursday, September 25th, and into Friday the 26th, we might see a slight reprieve, with the chance of showers decreasing and weather systems potentially stabilizing. Temperatures will hold relatively steady around 15 to 17 degrees high, dropping to 9 to 11 degrees low. While the winds will remain active, they might not be as severe. The weekend, Saturday the 27th and Sunday the 28th, looks considerably more settled in some areas, particularly the North Island, with partly cloudy to fine conditions. This stabilization in pressure is exactly what we want. However, a note of caution: Wellington and parts of the South Island could still see rain and strong northwesterlies returning on Sunday, so always check your local forecast. This overall fluctuating pressure and strong winds will definitely make fish temperamental early in the week, often forcing them to seek deeper cover or more sheltered areas. But friends, don't despair. These conditions often create brief, intense feeding windows just before or after a significant weather front. The key is to be ready to capitalize on those moments. The rain, while annoying, can also be beneficial, washing terrestrial insects and food into rivers and lakes, creating temporary feeding opportunities. Water temperature. Now let's talk about a silent yet immensely powerful factor: water temperature. As we're firmly entrenched in spring, the water temperature across New Zealand's diverse aquatic environments, from the vast coastal seas to the pristine inland lakes and winding rivers, is gradually warming up from its winter lows. While the exact degree can vary greatly by specific location, body of water, and depth, expect a general upward trend from around 14 degrees Celsius. For instance, in Auckland, the sea temperature begins its climb from its August low of around 14 degrees Celsius towards its summer peak of 21 degrees. This warming trend is particularly noticeable in shallower bays, sun-exposed flats, and the mouths of rivers where fresh water mixes with the sea. This rising temperature, my friends, is absolutely fantastic news. It's the primary catalyst that gets fish more active, significantly boosts their metabolism, and encourages them to feed much more aggressively as they prepare for spawning, or, for many species, actively recover from it. Look for areas that warm up fastest, those shallower, sun-exposed spots, particularly those with dark, heat-absorbing bottoms, as these will become baitfish magnets. And where the baitfish go, the predators, including our target species, will follow. In lakes, the warming water starts to break down any winter thermocline, allowing fish to move more freely through the water column, but they will still gravitate towards areas offering optimal temperature and food availability. So keep an eye on those shallows. They're your spring hotspots. Moon phase. All right, let's turn our gaze skyward and talk about the moon, because its influence on fishing is a topic of endless fascination and often incredible results. This week starts with a significant lunar event, a new moon on Monday, September 22nd, occurring at 7:54 a.m. Auckland time. From this point, we transition into a waxing crescent phase, with the moon's illumination slowly but steadily increasing throughout the week. Traditional fishing lore, backed by generations of angler observations, often links the new moon period with increased fish activity. Why? The gravitational pull of the new moon is at its strongest, creating powerful spring tides, higher highs and lower lows. These extreme tides can stir up food sources, disorient baitfish, and create strong currents that trigger feeding frenzies in many species. As the moon then moves into its waxing crescent phase, with illumination growing from a mere 1% on Monday, many seasoned anglers believe the bite can steadily improve day by day. The increasing light, even subtle, can influence nocturnal feeding patterns and the overall confidence of fish to move and hunt. So while the new moon itself can be a fantastic time to hit the water due to the tidal influence, keep a close eye on those tides and don't be afraid to fish into the twilight hours as the week progresses and the crescent grows for some potentially explosive action. Maori fishing calendars also suggest better fishing on an outgoing tide when the moon is waxing, which will be relevant towards the latter half of our forecast week. Overall fish activity? Overall, my friends, this is spring in New Zealand. and that means fish are absolutely waking up. After the slower, colder months of winter, the natural world is bursting back into life, and our finned friends are no exception. Many species, particularly our beloved trout and salmon, are either finishing their spawning runs and are now aggressively feeding to recover lost condition, or they are becoming incredibly active in preparation for their upcoming spawning. Trout in lakes, as mentioned, will be transitioning from deeper water, becoming more active, and seeking out prey closer to the surface, making them more accessible to a wider range of techniques. Saltwater species like the energetic Kahawai and the ever-popular snapper are also on the move, steadily migrating into shallower, warmer, inshore waters. They are actively chasing the increasing abundance of baitfish, which are also responding to the rising water temperatures and longer daylight hours. Kingfish, those powerful yellowtail, are now in prime condition. They are cruising their feeding grounds, often in schools, actively hunting and demonstrating their incredible strength and speed. While the initial part of the week might present some challenging weather, the underlying biological drive of these fish to feed, to recover, and to prepare for the reproductive season will create some truly excellent windows of opportunity. Don't let a bit of wind and rain deter you, friends. Often, those are precisely the days when the biggest, most aggressive fish are on the prowl, looking for an easy meal. The fish's metabolism is ramping up, their hunger instincts are strong, and they are ready to bite. All right, my fellow anglers, it's time for the Daily Breakdown, your day-by-day roadmap to success on the water. Remember, these are forecasts, so always be ready to adapt. Monday, September 22nd. Today, Monday, the 22nd of September, the forecast for fishing is looking poor to capricious. Friends, we're starting the week with a challenging combination of conditions. Expect heavy rain, particularly in the morning, especially across the South Island and around Wellington, where strong gale-force northerlies will be howling. Air temperatures will range from around 14 to 18 degrees Celsius during the day, dropping to 11 to 13 degrees at night. Atmospheric pressure will be low and unstable. Although it's a new moon, which typically indicates strong tidal movement and potential feeding activity, the severe weather will largely negate this benefit. The strong winds will create choppy, uncomfortable conditions on open water, and heavy rain will discolor rivers and inshore areas. Fish will be seeking deep cover, sheltering from the turbulence and the rapid pressure drops. For trout, this means targeting deeper drop-offs in larger lakes with dark-colored, heavily weighted streamers or large nymphs, retrieved very slowly near the bottom. For Kahawai, they will likely be holding deeper or in very sheltered estuaries. Try large metal slugs or heavy soft plastics presented close to the bottom in areas with less current. Kingfish will be scattered and difficult to locate in the chop, likely retreating to deeper pinnacles or very sheltered deep bays. Snapper will also be holding tight to deep reefs. This is a day for perseverance, or perhaps for focusing on gear prep for the better days ahead. Tuesday, September 23rd. On Tuesday, September 23rd, the fishing forecast remains weak to capricious. We're still grappling with continued heavy rain across much of New Zealand, accompanied by unsettled weather and persistent low-pressure systems. Daytime temperatures will hover around 15 to 18 degrees Celsius, with nighttime lows of 11 to 13 degrees. The strong northwesterly winds will remain a dominant factor, keeping coastal waters rough and many rivers high and discolored. These conditions will keep fish generally sluggish and holding deep. However, as the moon begins its waxing crescent phase, there might be very brief, short windows of opportunity if the rain eases momentarily. For trout, consider fishing sheltered sections of larger rivers or deeper parts of lakes, again using weighted flies or lures that can penetrate the water column. Consider natural presentations that drift slowly. Kahawai might make a brief appearance in very sheltered river mouths if the rain lightens, but you'll need to be quick. Heavy metal lures or deep-diving soft plastics will be key. Kingfish and snapper will continue to be challenging targets, requiring meticulous searching in protected, deeper waters. Focus on areas with natural structure or current breaks that offer refuge from the elements. Wednesday, September 24th. For Wednesday, September 24th, the forecast improves slightly to weak to average. we can still expect more rain and unstable atmospheric pressure across many regions. Temperatures will be around 16 to 18 degrees Celsius during the day and 13 degrees at night, remaining mild. Winds will continue from the northwest, though perhaps with slightly less intensity in some areas. While the conditions are still challenging, the steadily waxing crescent moon, now a few days past new, brings with it a subtle but noticeable increase in fish metabolism and confidence. This means there's a slightly better chance for short feeding bursts. For trout, consider deeper sections of larger lakes where water clarity might be improving slightly or tributary inflows that are pushing in new food. Nymphing under an indicator or slow trolling deep with a streamer could yield results. Kahawai, feeling the lunar influence, might be more inclined to feed, especially on the outgoing tide around sheltered river mouths. Try slightly brighter colored metal slugs or soft plastics to stand out in the discolored water. Kingfish might still be deep, but a well-presented live bait or a heavy jig, worked patiently, could tempt a strike. Snapper will remain a patient game, focusing on scent trails with pilchard or squid baits on a ledger rig over reefs. Thursday, September 25th. Friends, on Thursday, September 25th, we're seeing a positive shift with the fishing forecast rising to average to good E. The weather is finally starting to stabilize a bit, with only a chance of showers remaining for many areas. Daytime temperatures will be around 15 to 17 degrees Celsius, with nighttime lows of 12 to 13 degrees. Winds should be easing in strength, becoming less of a hindrance, although still present from the northwest. Crucially, atmospheric pressure should be rising and becoming more stable. Water temperatures continue their upward trend, further encouraging fish activity. The steadily waxing crescent moon, now several days into its cycle, will also contribute to increased feeding. For trout, this is the time to start exploring shallower edges of lakes and rivers again, especially those sheltered from any remaining wind. Streamers and nymphs will still be effective, but don't be afraid to try some small dry flies if you see any surface activity. Kahawai should be more active around river mouths and coastal areas. Look for bird activity and cast metal slugs or saltwater flies into the working fish. Kingfish might start patrolling structure more confidently. Try live baits or medium-heavy jigs. Snapper will be actively feeding over reefs and sandy areas. Soft baits in natural colors or pilchard stray lines should be productive. Focus on dawn and dusk, which will be prime feeding times. Friday, September 26th. For Friday, September 26th, the fishing forecast looks too good. The weather continues its positive trend towards more settled conditions, with partly cloudy to fine skies for many areas across New Zealand. Air temperatures will be comfortable, ranging from 15 to 17 degrees Celsius during the day, dropping to 9 to 11 degrees at night. Winds should be noticeably lighter and more manageable. With atmospheric pressure stabilizing and water temperatures continuing their gentle rise, fish activity should pick up significantly. The waxing crescent moon is growing stronger, providing ample light and contributing to improved bite times, especially during transitional periods like dawn and dusk, and potentially throughout the day. For trout, actively cruise those lake edges and river runs, focusing on current breaks and deeper pools. Consider fly fishing with a mix of nymphs and emergers, or spin fishing with small, natural-colored lures. Kahawai should be in full swing around river mouths and coastal headlands. Target them with fast-retrieved metal slugs or aggressive saltwater fly patterns. Kingfish will be more predictable. Look for workups and hit them with stick baits or jigs, or deploy live baits around prominent structures. Snapper will be actively feeding over a wider range of grounds. Soft baits, pilchards, and squid will all be effective. This is a day to be on the water. Saturday, September 27th. Friends, get ready, because Saturday the 27th of September is shaping up to be the excellent day of the week. This is the day we've been waiting for. Expect mostly fine weather across most of New Zealand, stable atmospheric pressure, and comfortably rising water temperatures. Daytime highs will be around 15 to 17 degrees Celsius, with overnight lows of 9 to 11 degrees. The waxing crescent moon will be strong, providing excellent light conditions and influencing robust feeding activity. This combination of stable, pleasant weather, optimal water conditions, and lunar influence means active fish, and strong, confident feeding. Get out there early and stay late. For trout, every method should be effective. Dry flies if you spot rising fish, nymphs in the deeper runs, and streamers or spin lures along those productive lake edges. Look for active feeding zones. Kahawai will be busting bait all over the place. Be prepared with a variety of lures and flies, and keep an eye on those diving birds. Kingfish will be aggressive and hunting hard. Whether you're jigging or throwing topwater, expect solid strikes. Snapper will be on the chew. Fish your favorite spots with confidence, trying both soft baits and natural baits. This is truly a prime fishing day. Make the most of it. Sunday, September 28th. Finally, for Sunday, September 28th, the fishing forecast is generally good, but potentially challenging in the South Island. Overall, the fishing should still be very productive, especially in the North Island, which is expected to see continued fine weather. Daytime temperatures will reach 15 to 19 degrees Celsius, with nighttime lows of 10 to 11 degrees. However, a weather front is forecast to return to Wellington and parts of the South Island, bringing rain and strong northwesterlies. This means conditions will vary regionally. For North Island anglers, continue with the successful tactics from Saturday. Fish will remain active and responsive. For South Island anglers, you'll need to adapt. If facing rain and strong winds, revert to the strategies for challenging conditions. Seek sheltered areas, fish deeper, and use heavier lures or baits to combat the wind and current. Trout might be found closer to the bottom in deeper pools or behind structure. Kahawai might move into more protected bays. Kingfish and snapper will likely respond to deeper presentations or live baits in calmer, sheltered spots. Pay close attention to your local forecast and adjust your plans accordingly. Even with some returning weather, the overall spring activity means there are still fish to be caught with the right approach. So, there you have it, my friends, your comprehensive fishing forecast for a truly dynamic and exciting week in New Zealand. Remember, adaptability is your best friend, especially with the classic shifts of spring weather. Pack your wet weather gear for the start of the week, but definitely don't miss those calmer windows, especially towards the glorious weekend. I'm wishing each and every one of you tight lines, full nets, and unforgettable moments on the water. No matter what the weather throws at us, there's always a fish to be caught and a story to be told. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure. And tell me in the comments below, what are your plans for fishing this week? What's your favorite spring target species in New Zealand? And what's the most surprising or even challenging catch you've ever had in tricky weather? Your stories inspire us all. Until next time, stay safe and tight lines, mates.